On a quest to find the greatest superhero movie ever made, I've pitted them all against each other in a March Madness-style tournament bracket. For each matchup, some friends and I watch both films back to back, discuss the merits of each, argue about which one is better, and vote on the film that should move on to the next round. 128 films, covering 6 decades of cinema, and only one can be champion. Welcome to Superhero Movie Madness. The full tournament bracket, as well as the video explaining its creation, are linked in the description below this video. This episode's matchup is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vs. Man of Steel. The following discussion is immediately after watching these two movies. Well, we've just watched a couple of films here.
What was
Unfortunately,
the question was, what was the
guys.
seed of that last movie we just watched before we say its name?
22.
And the answer is 22.
That's
out of
too
32.
high. That's too high.
That is way too fucking high.
I'm gonna be honest, I think not enough people attended tonight's double feature, and now they don't know that they were so very wrong.
Especially considering that before Jeff left,
man.
And I quote,
Did you say
Man of Steel gets a bad rap.
Yeah, I think that people watched this film when it came out and then didn't watch it again, and then it
wasn't
9
good
years.
when it came out.
No, but it's been 9 years.
It has been way more than 9 years since I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And that holds up.
And that holds the fuck up.
So
It was just as good as I remember it being.
Right,
I mean,
let's hold on. We're getting way too ahead of ourselves here. We watched 2 films tonight. Let's discuss them. We'll start with the
We
first.
watched a film.
It's been
And
8
a movie.
years since I watched Guardians of the Galaxy. That's still a good movie. I don't think the time since the film came out.
No. It's changed people's. I think people have a warped perception because they remember, like, yeah, it was all right, you know.
It wasn't even close to all right.
So we watched tonight Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. Ben, what did you think of the film?
That film is a masterpiece.
Okay.
Hear me out. It did exactly what it set out to do, and it did it amazingly well. It set out to be a comic book on the silver screen. It had great practical effects.
Yeah, Splinter.
It had wonderful editing work in it. The choreography, for the most part, was really fucking fun.
Except for that one scene with Raph and Casey.
Except for that one
really
scene
rough.
near the beginning with Raph and Casey, because I guess Casey's actor wasn't great with the slowed down choreography to deal with the turtle head. That one was not great, and it's the only time he used the baseball bats or the cricket bat.
It gives so much love to the source material.
Yes,
it's campy, but it is supposed to be campy.
Exactly.
It's so fun.
It enjoyed what it was adapting, and it enjoyed the product it made from it. The Turtles had characterization. They were differentiated from each other. They had conflict between themselves that also worked as siblings. They didn't need to evolve as it went on. They are static characters. They are fucking turtles.
And also teenagers.
And also teenagers.
And mutants,
so,
actually. I don't know if you guys were aware of that. Chris, are there any other traits that they have, Chris, that you could name?
They're mutants.
I said that one.
They're teenagers. They're mutants.
You were not fucking listening at all. Holy shit.
Turtles. Guys, I have to be honest. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was fucking excellent, and it's a great film that has held up.
It is so good.
Sorry, I need to run us back.
It is a children's movie. Every conflict in it worked. The juxtaposition of family values between the actual father who's distanced from his son, the surrogate father in Splinter with the Turtles, Shredder with those children, and his second in command who is just abusing them. It all works. Everything in the movie has a purpose. All the sound stages were on point. They never wasted any time or scenes. Everything we saw came back in some kind of Chekhov's gun manner.
I think that it is entirely possible that Ben is overpraising the film a bit.
I don't think so.
I want to pop your tires.
I really think. I genuinely think it is a great movie.
Great is such a strong word. It's so strong.
It's great.
But
I gave it a
hold on.
10
No.
and I
What
stand by it.
isn't great about it?
So
And
like,
I wanna know
yeah.
your critic.
No. That's a totally fair question to ask, right? And that's great that you asked that question. A lot of the dialogue,
Okay.
is what's not great about the film.
That
Because
is
here's the thing,
fair.
like,
It's a 1990s child and teen movie.
yeah, there
Right,
there
so
are
that's what I
films
would
that
like to
caricatures
posit, is
as they are
that-
supposed
yeah.
to.
Ben, there
is
are
that,
films that fit
know,
that
if
description
we-
that have good dialogue.
I don't know.
What,
do you
Ferris Bueller?
Well, I mean, first of all, yes, but
Yeah.
I don't think that Ferris Bueller's dialogue is better than
Well,
Teenage
no.
Mutant
So
Ninja
here's
Turtles.
Absolutely
the thing
wrong, dude.
about. Here's the
They
thing about
speak in a way that
TMNT.
is not natural because they're fucking Teenage Mutant
Okay.
Ninja Turtles.
oh my god,
Here's
it's not about how the dialogue is delivered. It's about the words that are being said by the
Yes.
characters in
I
the
know.
film,
Here's the
including the non-turtle
Yes,
characters.
So here's the thing. You're right. The
he's
dialogue
not.
is rough, but it's also like it's a cartoon.
Listen,
And like that's what I think.
I just want to be clear. The pushback I'm giving is that calling it a great, amazing masterpiece is a little far. Like
okay.
I just want to be clear that I
think
have
it's
not
gonna
once
be
in this
out in
conversation.
1966 in its next
Well, I
round.
think
I have
the
not
fact
once in this
that it
conversation
is,
said that I thought it was bad.
No. What I'm saying is like I partially agree with you, and I think that the fact that it's a live action movie makes that like dialogue so jarring. And I think that if it were an animated film, it wouldn't like it is a visually dark film. Like it all takes place at night. You're like down in like these like shadowy sewers, and then you also have that pizza better not be late or you'll be sorry.
So here's the thing.
And I think that's phenomenal, but I also think it'd be less jarring if it were, like a brightly colored cartoon.
I think it's a little strange that it appears as though through his dialogue, Casey has never spoken to anyone before.
I think that's probably true.
He's a hockey player. He's got a lot of brain damage.
Maybe,
yeah, exactly.
But also, like, Casey is supposed to come off as rough and a little stupid and then be competent at most of the things he does because that's the juxtaposition.
I totally
He's
agree
also
with you.
rough
The
and a little
character.
stupid. He's pretty
I
fucking
totally
stupid.
agree with you. I think that a lot of the character and plot that the film wanted to communicate through dialogue was done successfully, but extremely inelegantly. And
Yeah,
don't take
fair.
that to mean that the
Yeah.
turtles should be speaking very verbosely. That's not what I mean.
Yo,
I
it'd be
mean
fucking funny if
that
they
there
did,
is-
though.
There are elegant and efficient ways to achieve things through dialogue, and I think a lot of that was not done in the film.
I think, I think that
I think it did exactly what it wanted to.
Sure,
I think that,
that it was a really
Casey
faithful
being-
adaptation of something that was good
Yeah.
to start.
See, I
And
think
that
Casey
is a path
being
to
a
success.
I think Casey being a human character was a disservice to
Yeah.
just the franchise as a whole. Because here's the thing, right? You have the turtles who are like cartoon caricatures and speak the way they do and act the way they do, almost in like a Space Jam or Roger Rabbit-esque way, is like juxtaposed by the fact that you have all of these human characters that are like normal. April, Danny, like all whatever Danny's stupid dad's name is, all talk in like this like
Dick
completely
Splash,
normal.
I think was his dad's name. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, all talk in these like completely normal ways. And that like builds this juxtaposition with the turtles and it makes the turtles like cute and charming and endearing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Casey's there and Casey says things like
You know what? Also, actually,
Casey says things.
I didn't really think of this until
Thanks,
now,
Ron.
but I think a lot of the things that the turtles said had this quality to them that you find in like early anime dubs, right?
Yes.
And it's more,
Yes.
here's the thing, right? Like, because it's like, okay, we have to have them say things that match up with the lip movements we have.
Yeah, it's
We
like
made the
believe
lip
it.
movements intending them to say X, but they actually have to say like Y, which is close to X, but we have
Yeah.
to have the voiceover be a little different because of how the lip movements turned out.
Yeah,
And I think
like,
it's
believe
more
it.
it's more acceptable here than with old anime dubs, because with old anime dubs they were just like, yeah, I mean there's no way we could edit anything, but like they could have. But with this it's like, well, that is the foot. You can't just like start like cutting frames out because it would be noticeable because it's live
Yeah.
action, right?
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really think
Like
of
they
that.
had the takes they had. For
I didn't
every
think of
shot.
that
Right.
comparison during the film, but I think that might be the cause of some of the like stiltedness in the dialogue.
Yeah.
That
no, I
didn't-
could definitely
Because
see
there
that.
was stiltedness that didn't seem like on purpose, because it wasn't
Yeah.
reacted to in any particular way by other characters, because the dialogue matched up very well throughout most of the film with the lip movements. So like it
And
seemed
where
like
it
that
couldn't,
was
you couldn't see their mouths.
yeah, it seemed like that was something that was really important to them.
Yeah.
The Splinter puppet was great. The turtle suits
Yeah.
were really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like all the close shots where you could see that they modeled the scales on their noses.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that
Like
was
they were
cool.
textured.
It's cool
Yeah.
that the
And
turtles
they put like the spots on them. And I think that in later movies you find out that all of their patterning is different between the different suits, on top of their heads being different and the bodies being different shapes and their shells having differentiations between them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool that they're not just like
Yeah, the-
the same suit 4 times. Yeah.
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 Like the detail work in like the effect work and the costuming is all
And it is
just
it's
phenomenal.
the Jim Henson Company, right?
Yeah, the Jim Henson monster whatever did do the puppetry.
And like they made the suits too, right? Or which I guess the
Yeah,
suits were
that's part of the
partially
puppetry, yeah.
puppets. It was like a puppet
Yeah,
head.
the animatronic puppetry is Henson. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. It's very
It
well
wasn't
done.
Henson,
It's
he was
so good.
And
But it
I
was
said
like,
I
you
said the
know-
Jim Henson Company.
And like the film
I said
has
Henson
some
and then had to
points
correct
where like
myself.
it's kind of cringy because it's a very old kids movie,
Yeah,
but it's fucking fun.
there's a lot of
It
endearing
has-
qualities to the
Yes. Here's
Mhm.
the big thing that I think is going to push it ahead of its competitor this evening, and that's that it had a plot that
film.
had a goal
No, it's okay,
And
Evie. You
it
can stop there.
ends
You can stop.
point-
It's cool.
and it traveled on a line from
Chris.
the start to the end.
So
Chris,
here-
I hate to say it, but Man of Steel had a plot.
TMNT's plot
Teenage
went
Mutant
from
Ninja Turtles
beginning-
plot, because TMNT is a
Teenage Mutant
different
Ninja
thing that we will
Okay.
watch at a later
All
date.
right.
No, and Teenage
The
Mutant
Turtles
Ninja
will not
Turtles
be
is a
nearly so
film
good.
we'll watch at a later date. This is Teenage
Yes.
Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990.
19. All right, the plot of the turtle film that we watched this evening took a path from start to finish that had a logical progression and made logical sense. And when different events happened in the plot, they felt meaningful. They felt like we had earned that part of the plot. Not one single part of the film did not make sense from a plot standpoint. Everything moving sequentially from beginning to end
The one thing that
made
didn't make sense.
Was when they were like, we're gonna kill Splinter, and then they just left.
I think the one thing that didn't make
Yeah.
sense was when
No, that part was, there must be 2 if you're gonna say something different.
when Danny just showed up at the sewer lair.
Yeah, how did he know about the sewer lair?
Unless Splinter told him about it, But
Maybe,
I don't
but that
think he'd do
yeah,
that. And we certainly didn't see it on screen.
yeah, we'd have to
yeah,
see it,
okay,
right?
that's fair. That's fair. Because
Oh
I
wait,
know
hang
that,
on.
you know,
No,
him.
the foot already raided the sewer lair
Right, but
Danny
we don't
might
know
have just been with
necessarily
them.
That's
Oh,
fair.
Yeah,
he might have
because
been.
they captured
because he had the
Splinter from
bandana.
there.
He had the headband already.
They
Yeah.
captured
So he might
Splinter
have been
from
there when
the
they got
sewer
it,
lair.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, so I guess that
is
does make
fair.
sense. I just forgot that.
Right.
No,
bit.
the part that doesn't make sense is when Shredder's like, "We're gonna kill Splinter," and then instead of doing that, they just leave.
Yeah, that is fair.
I don't.
That doesn't quite
kind
make
of
sense.
was like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah, but everything else.
yeah, there was one thing. There were like a lot of the fight scenes were not great, and that like I think I'd be more okay with it, except that there were parts of the fight scenes that were really good. And so it's
Mhm.
just like, man, the whole movie could have been this, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
If all of it was
I
like
noticed
not,
that too.
if all of it was not great, then I wouldn't feel as like disappointed about it. But the fact that there were certain parts where it was like, holy shit, look at that cool stuff Raphael just did. That it's like, why wasn't like it feels
So-
like
Sure,
there
some
were
of it comes
small
down to what
sections.
suit actors they had for whatever days.
No,
Well,
sure, but
also-
it feels like there were small sections that were like well choreographed, and then other sections where they were like, hey, stunt guys, do some fighting.
Yeah.
So I noticed that too, but by the time I noticed it, I started paying attention. And every single time the turtles had dialogue, the fight got worse.
Yeah,
We
Oh.
noticed this
They
during
had
the
a
movie. It's because
heavier
they had different heads. They had like the fighting head.
Yeah.
They had like the action head where it was a smaller head that like whoever was in the suit could see out of.
Uh-huh.
Presumably not the actual like motion actor. I don't know what they did. And then there was like the dialogue head with all the animatronics and everything in it. So I think,
and possibly somebody else's hand up their back, and
yeah, I'm pretty sure that had something to do with it. But it is something that I noticed.
Sure.
I'd have to
Yeah.
watch it again to really see if that's like the
Yeah,
case.
I
the whole
guess
thing.
hindsight being 2020, I think better fight choreography and having us not see their face when they say a line during combat would have been better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the turtles all did have different enough voices that you could tell who was who just from
Not just,
them.
and
They all
actually
had
to
very different
continue
voices.
on Ben's compliment train, not only did they have distinct voices, they had distinct like manners of speaking like they do in
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
cartoon
yeah.
and the comic. No,
Yeah.
it's
I don't know why Raphael sounded like a 40-year-old man.
it
from
was really
Brooklyn,
funny
but-
though.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
was.
well, it's just because they needed to bring forth the fact that he is gruff and angry most of the time.
He is
So he
the
sounds like a
angry
dude
one.
from Brooklyn.
So
Yeah.
two things that this movie did that I've seen a lot of the movies that we're going to be watching, right? Two things that this movie did that you're going to notice lacking from a lot of other films, especially as we get closer to current year, is one that was pointed out already, that for the most part, there's a logical progression of events, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Like when people show up in places, we pretty much know why they showed up there at that time.
Yeah, we are seeing what leads to each scene.
Exactly, right? And the other thing
It's not just a train of coincidences past meeting Casey.
the other thing that the film did that you won't see a lot is that it was a very faithful adaptation of the source material, not necessarily in terms of like this is an exact story that happened, but in terms of characters and the type of tone of the world.
Yeah.
So I think this very well segues.
Well, one
I
second,
think
real
that
quick,
this very
to
well
just
segues.
cap this point, and you're right, it does really
Okay.
well segue. I don't think that an adaptation needs to necessarily be faithful, but I do
But
feel
at
that
that point,
if
it's not
you,
an adaptation.
if
It's
you,
an interpretation.
if you do something that's not as faithful and then it's worse, then it's like, why didn't you just make the thing? Like,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Which segues really well into the second film we watched tonight.
Chris, what was that film?
You know, I had a bit that I was thinking of this whole time, which is why I've been relatively quiet, where I go upstairs and I grab my keys and I jingle them in front of the mic, but that wouldn't be fucking sonically pleasing for anybody listening, including ourselves. It was Man of Steel, and it was a fucking human rights violation. It was so goddamn fucking vapid, empty, and trash. I spent 2 hours and 16 minutes of my fucking life wishing that we had watched that dumpster fire first, so that I'm not going to have to go to bed after this and fucking lie there awake wishing I was already fucking dead because I had to suffer through this bullshit.
Cavill
Man,
wasn't
I'm
even
so glad
shirtless
that
for
is
a
after
lot
my
of it.
glowing review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990.
The fact that Henry Cavill was in this movie and didn't even spend most of it shirtless.
He
what
did
was the
spend an
fucking
amount
point?
of it shirtless.
Not most of it though.
We got
No,
a
not
couple
most of
good shots.
Also, in the bits where he was shirtless, he did not have very much body hair.
And then
And
when they
he was
put
in the
the
Superman
when
suit.
they put the
He
suit
sure
on
did have
him,
a bunch of
he had
chest hair
plenty
poking
of
out for
body
no
hair.
reason.
All right, listen. The first thing that I'm gonna say is I don't like Superman. Okay, and just bear with me here. I have never been a Superman fan, except for that thing that Superman can do where he opens up his finger and shoots out a tiny, smaller sentient Superman out into the world. I think that's a fantastic power. Great. Thing is, I don't like Superman. I think Superman's boring. I know that there's compelling Superman media out there, and I don't want anyone to show it to me. Don't tweet at me. I don't care.
I mean, you're gonna see some of the
hold
older
on,
Superman.
hold on,
Is
hold
there
on,
is
hold
there
on,
a
hold on,
butt
hold on.
coming along,
There's
or are
a
you
butt.
just complaining
But-
about Superman?
No, we're getting there. But Superman did not deserve this.
No.
He did not.
Like this was bad. All right. They started out with a set of rules, a concept that was introduced.
Well, let's even.
All right,
Can we go back
a-
further than that? Because the The film starts out on Krypton, and we immediately learn that Krypton is gonna blow up for the stupidest reason possible.
Well, I mean, okay, let's go back even further. The film opens with a birth.
That's true. I don't know what's
And
that's the miracle of life. I don't know what's your issue there.
Rough, to say the least.
That's the nice thing is that the film includes the birth and death of Superman. Unfortunately, they both happen, as the film begins.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually simultaneous. And it's like,
man, if this had started with Superman and those glasses from the death of Superman.
Oh my god. But it's like they start out with a set of rules. They have an idea in place. They have a conflict set up for later that we know is going to follow Superman to Earth. And then a whole lot of absolutely nothing happens in a very disjointed way throughout the whole film. We get just what basically feel like random vignette snippets
of
of
him
Clark's
being like a
life.
hobo Superman,
right,
interspersed with bits of his childhood that is supposed to be showing us why he grew up this way in individual instances that shaped the choices he made then. But none of it fucking worked, and it all sucked.
So if you're gonna do things like that, if you're gonna show these flashbacks that are supposed to indicate why an adult has become the adult they have become, you have to actually show character from that adult.
I want to run back real quick to the reason Krypton is gonna blow up is because the people living there were like, hey, what if we remove the core of the planet and use it for energy? That'll probably work out fine, right?
We're abandoning all of their off-planet resource outposts that were designed specifically to avoid that problem.
Yeah, and then they were like, "Oh no!"
For reasons they refused to elaborate on 6 times.
Yeah,
not just they didn't tell us; they refused to elaborate on it.
Because they kept bringing it up.
It's important, right, for the story that Krypton gets destroyed.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's the basis of Superman.
But why do you have to?
That he was
when you're writing this
Moses,
film, why do you
instead Jesus?
Why do you have to have Krypton be destroyed in a way that immediately pulls me back from the film? Doesn't allow me to get immersed. Why can't it be the fucking sun near Krypton is dying or whatever? Or why can't it be that some force that's anti-Krypton, like Darkseid or something, is destroying the planet?
Because that would be an instance wherein the people did not have time to react except for the warmongers, which would have led us very well into Zod being off planet at the time of Krypton's destruction. Instead, the eugenicists said, what if we just died instead?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And it's
and then when Zod said, hey, I'm also a eugenicist, and what if we didn't?
They said,
you're going to hell now.
It doesn't have a huge impact on the plot. So it's one could say that it's not that important. But the really important thing about it is that it happens right at the beginning and immediately removes you from being immersed in the film. It's ridiculous. But anyway, then Evie, also, character traits that Superman has, we see that he's a spiteful person, because he destroys that man's truck.
He is solely responsible for meting out justice to anyone he encounters in a way he sees fit, while also not attacking them or standing up for himself.
Yeah, here's the thing. That guy was a jerk, right? He sexually assaulted that woman.
He deserved to be kicked out of the bar. Instead,
sexual assault
his job and
is what he did, but sounds really strong. He slapped her butt, right? So I'm not saying that it's not sexual assault, but that sexual assault sounds kind of strong. He slapped her butt.
He harassed a waitress,
and he shouldn't have done that, right? And then Clark confronts him. And again, he shouldn't have tried to push Clark, but he's clearly drunk. So I think trying to push Clark is way more forgivable than slapping that waitress's butt.
Yes.
And then Clark destroys his livelihood.
Yeah, but but he took the bigger road because he didn't actually hurt the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he took
the high road,
right?
Yeah, he took the high road
because
by
Clark
preventing that cargo from getting anywhere, and also by destroying that man's job. And also, there's a good chance if he's delivering stuff, there's a good chance that's not his vehicle, right? But he's gonna have to pay for it, and also now he's out of work.
It's that's the thing is I feel on a broad scale, a lot of people are harmed or maimed or killed in this film
by Superman.
At least by
and not just
Superman.
No, not even that. directly by Superman because he's flying, like he's exploding buildings and shit. But anytime that he's like looking at a person, we're supposed to believe that there's this huge moral quandary about killing. And it's like, this man's just decimated a city block. Like, what?
There's also this huge problem where like Clark is on Earth for, we don't know exactly, but the kid looks like 10, but even if we say he's younger than that, he's been on Earth for like 6 to 10 years when he starts to develop his powers, right? This is what Evie was talking about a rule set. And then when Zod and his goons show up, they like immediately have Superman powers.
Yeah. Even, when Clark says to Zod, like, oh, like I spent years training to block out all of these powerful senses so that I could focus and do things.
Zod masters that stuff.
And then Zod does that in like 20 fucking minutes afterward.
Even if we assume that the timeline of the film does not match up with the film's runtime, it's a couple of hours at most.
And we're led to believe from the beginning and throughout the entire film that Clark is supposed to be stronger than normal Kryptonian.
Yeah,
and that the yellow sun will make him stronger.
Yeah.
But when the other Kryptonians come to Earth, they are not exposing themselves to that radiation.
The other thing too,
or the
is,
atmosphere that they kept repeating is the reason that he's so strong.
They do mention in the early part of the film that Earth has weaker gravity than Krypton. So like theoretically they should feel lighter on their feet, be able to maybe like move faster, jump higher type of thing.
That doesn't explain the fact that they hit things like bullets with their bodies.
Yeah, but like they should be surprised by that the first time that it happens, right? Like
perfectly adapted to fighting in that situation.
And that's the weird thing is the one like female Kryptonian goon is better at using the powers than Clark, who has lived with them for his whole life.
Minus
better
not
even
being
than
exposed
Zod.
to any of the elements that have given him those powers.
Yeah, and she's had them for like 6 minutes, and she's like wiping the floor with them.
Yeah,
it is in fact such a plot point that when he gets up to the ship and is exposed to their natural atmosphere, he loses all of his powers.
When Clark is fighting her one-on-one, the fucking ham-fisted explanation that they give for why she fights better than he does is, oh, your morality makes you weaker than me.
Yeah, what about when we were like up in the sky and you dodged all my punches at lightning speed? Like,
I would like to point out a much better piece of DC media that we are not going to watch for this. Justice League Unlimited's World of Cardboard monologue from Superman, wherein he is talking to, I believe, Darkseid, about how he is constantly holding back against everyone he fights because he does not want to cause any more damage to the surroundings or the people than can be repaired.
Yeah.
Right. And that is something that
they
makes
keep
sense.
trying to be like, oh, he won't kill them. That's why they keep not going down. And it's like, okay, but he's tossing them through gas stations and power plants.
Yeah.
And like, none of that makes sense. He's clearly not holding back in any way, even though he is capable of killing them at any time. You just don't need it to happen here.
You also
this
could
is
very
a farm
easily
boy from Kansas who understands that like this is people's livelihoods that he's ruining.
You could also very easily set up the third act of a film similar to this one, where Zod is weaker than Clark.
Yeah.
But every time Clark is like gonna stop him, Zod puts some people in danger, and Clark has to stop fighting Zod to save those people. And then we would be like, yeah, that's Superman. He's more concerned with saving lives than stopping the bad guy.
Yeah. That's like the quandary that they give Spider-Man all the time.
And so,
because that is meaningful.
That's why they didn't do it. It would have been meaningful.
And
but
then
instead,
the
it's
thing is,
like Superman is just like weaker than Zod for some reason.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense. And it's like, I get that, superhero films when you're making an action movie, you want the big explosions and all the destruction and yada yada yada. And you know, like collateral damage is just like a part of superhero movies. It's supposed to be, you know, suspension of disbelief. You ignore it.
Sure,
right?
but Superman should be attempting to stop it, and Zod should be causing it. They shouldn't both be causing it.
Exactly.
Also, if they don't want us to think about this collateral damage that Superman himself is causing, they need to stop showing us the people running away from his fights and failing.
Like, if you're trying to like base your whole movie around the fact that like Superman is on the moral high ground, you know, trying to make the right decision, stop showing him just destroying cities.
Yeah.
Like,
the other thing too that I thought was a very interesting piece of character from Superman was when, like, you know, he goes to the Kryptonian ship that has all of the like embryos on it for potential Kryptonian lives,
and then kills them.
And Zod is like, if you destroy this ship, you destroy Krypton. And then Clark says, and I quote, Krypton had its chance, and then lasers the ship in half, killing all the embryos.
Yeah. Like, that's buck
and then refusing
wild.
to kill Zod anyway.
Yeah, and then he felt bad about killing Zod. It's so weird, right? Because like the fucking embryos that aren't even fucking fetuses yet, right? They didn't do anything, bro. Like, and like, you don't have to turn them into babies, right? But like, why not leave the option open?
Did, you know, if
why
a few
not
of them
why not avoid
babies,
genociding the Kryptonians?
Right. Like, and if a few of them did turn into babies, Clark
could raise them.
I
mean, heck,
know?
like maybe Martha's kind of empty nesting. Who knows? She could raise another alien baby. The first one turned out great. I mean, it didn't. It didn't. But the film thinks it did.
Speaking of Martha,
it
there's a
didn't
scene
in this interpretation.
There's a scene that rubs me the wrong way, and I don't think that it was intended to be a scene that rubs people the wrong way. But when Martha and Clark are talking in their fucking destroyed home, and she says, you know, something along the lines of like, I'm scared of losing you. And then Clark's response is to laugh and then hug her. And she's like sobbing. And that was just so awkward. Say something.
Yeah.
This movie had clearly all the money in the world.
Oh yeah.
It had,
I mean,
and they spent none of it doing redrafts of the script.
Yeah.
None of it.
Like
it had an all-star fucking cast.
The visuals were very well done
for the time.
Yeah.
It was still CG,
I think a good number of the visuals hold up. I'll say it.
I don't. You know, I've got video game brain, so the constant progress of technology is glaringly obvious to me. That's one of the reasons the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is such a good movie in my memory, is because practical effects will always look the same. Whereas you go back and you look at Dinosaur, which at the time people were like, oh my god, it's so real. Now you look at it and they look like they're made of clay. It all looks the fucking same to me. Fucking Final Fantasy, the Spirit Within.
Some of the CG...
Final Fantasy, The Spirit Within was groundbreaking at the time. People genuinely could not tell it from reality. And now you look back and you're like, oh yeah, this is like PS2 graphics.
I was going to say some of the CG, but a lot of the CG doesn't hold up. But the sets all looked really good.
Well, here's what
costuming for the most part was really well
when
done.
When they used CG to mask like sound stages, it was fine. Because those things were supposed to look kind of alien anyway.
Here's what
I will say. All the gravity stuff,
with the fight scenes though, and this is another thing that I think a lot of the films we're going to watch, this won't be true for. Even though they were like just kind of a CG shit show, I could tell everything that was happening in them.
Yeah.
Like, it was clear, like, when, you know, who was punching whom at what time and everything. Like
I can tell when
blue.
I can tell when there's a 5 million watt laser pointed right into my retinas, but that doesn't mean I enjoy it.
No, I'm not saying it was good. I'm saying that there are going to be movies we watch in this endeavor where they were like, can we choreograph this fight scene? No. Just slam the CG models together and put a bunch of rubble in the way, and that'll be fine. Whereas in this one...
At some point, we will watch Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice.
Yeah, something like that.
It wasn't the most visually pleasing. You could tell what was happening, but it wasn't
No, it was a small
The best.
compliment. It was really more
the
of a
fucking okay. So
it
the
was
tornado
more of a
scene.
pointing out how low the bar is on some superhero
Let
movies.
me get this in here. The tornado scene in relation to the CG. We could talk about the tornado scene and how fucking awful that is as a whole.
Oh
But
my
I forgot about the
God.
tornado.
Like,
the
your
hold on,
dad
hold
is
on,
about
hold
to
your horses.
die, and
Hold them. Hold the
Be
horses.
stable. Hold your horses. The fucking CG dog at the end looked like it was made out of fucking Play-Doh. It was so bad.
I can't believe that Clark just let his dad fucking die.
I know, right?
Like, imagine, like, because here's the thing: Clark loves his dad, right? Like, do we all
Yeah.
agree that Clark loves his dad?
yeah.
At least that's what the film told us. I don't know that we actually see any expressions of love between them, but the film told us he loves his
No,
dad.
why would they? They're men.
Assuming
Yeah.
people aren't going to be
So
watching
here's
this.
the thing. I just want everyone to ask themselves, if you love your dad and you have unquestionably the ability to save your dad from dying, and he's like, nah, don't do it. Do you save him or do you not save him? I think you save him
fucking
every
save
single
him.
Yeah, you
time,
fucking
right?
save your dad.
Every single
Or
time
you
you
tell
save
your
him.
dad,
Yeah.
don't be an idiot.
Can
I
we-
will go back and get the dog.
Can we
Get
address
away from
the,
the hurricane. You are a mortal man.
You don't even tell
Tornado,
your dad
sorry.
that. You go, "Zoop. Hey, I got the dog."
Yeah.
Because you're
Faster
fast
than
as
a
fucking
speeding
lightning, dude.
bullet.
Especially after a whole teenage rebellion fight.
Yeah, right?
Gosh. A
It
lot of
just- it
Jesus
was so
imagery for Superman. He was
Yeah, a
quite
lot.
Jesus-y.
A
Which
lot.
is so weird because Superman's story was deliberately made to parallel Moses in the basket.
But you know how
Like, there's
people-
already
you
religious
know how-
imagery you can pull on
Hey,
for
you
Superman.
know how
and they just
Christians feel about their
didn't.
Christian imagery.
Good.
Yeah, I know how many people like Neon Genesis Evangelion.
The tornado scene, though.
It was bad. It was real bad.
Like, okay.
Also,
so my
remember
biggest issue.
remember when Clark like saved all those kids from drowning, and
Yeah.
then his dad was like, "Clark, you almost revealed your secret identity," and then Clark was
And then
like,
Clark
"What?"
was
He was
like,
like,
"What? Should
"What
I
was
just
I
let them die?"
supposed to do? Let him die?" And then you're like,
And his
"Ah,
dad
see."
fucking says maybe.
You're like,
His
see,
dad just
Jonathan.
goes, maybe.
Jonathan Kent is now going to say, "No, Clark, you did the right thing. You should have saved them, but you do have to take these things into account, right?"
He says, I don't know, maybe.
And then, but yeah, instead his dad goes, "Yeah, maybe you should have let those kids die."
What the fuck? Like, what kind of lesson is that to teach your kid?
So the tornado scene.
Yeah, go on, go off,
Okay,
King.
the tornado scene. The whole fucking point of that scene is to establish the whole, you can't reveal yourself, don't reveal yourself, and then Clark like seemingly coming to acceptance with that, and then he never
Yet.
fucking does.
He just reveals
He
himself.
qualifies it
Dude,
with a yet.
he
Does qualify it with yet. However, he
whips
doesn't
out his fucking superpowers all the time.
whenever it is convenient for there to be jingly keys
There's
happening on screen.
absolutely no
Like-
reason Lois Lane needed to know that he had superpowers.
Zero reason. It
But
just the
you know,
whole everything was
I guess
awful
he
and
thought she was
incredibly
cute or
poorly
something.
thought out. It wasn't even thought out. I can't even say it was poorly thought out because that would imply it was thought out at all. It was
their
nothing.
relationship had zero development, but then at the end they were like, "Kiss, kiss, we in love."
At the end, they were kiss, kiss, we in love, and it just came out of
It's like,
fucking
how did we
nowhere.
get? How did we get here? Like,
Well, you
Oh,
know,
they
it's
held
hard to tell
hands that
'cause there
one
was
time.
no,
they held hands the one
no.
time, but it's Clark Kent and Lois
also,
Lane. They're
like,
always
it's
in love.
crazy that Zod Plan 1 was threatened to destroy Earth. Why wasn't Plan 1 like?
I guess if they said no, he would have been fine.
Why
Considering
wasn't
that his plan was to destroy Earth anyway.
Yeah, but why wasn't Plan 1 like find Kal-El and be like, "Hey man, you got that codex thing? Because we're the last survivors of our species, and that'll help us like save the Kryptonian race." You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't that Plan 1? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Like, if he's like, "No," then just go. Then you can go with the like threaten and destroy plan. You haven't lost that ability. But dude,
Calling it a plot hole.
he might
calling
just,
most of the
he
things
might
in this
just
movie-
give you the codex and then you have it. Like, he might be like, "Oh my gosh, my people, hell yeah, bro!" Like you like, you know.
But you see, Zod has never thought to do one very simple thing, and that's lie. Because that's all he had to do was show up and be like, we're
Yeah.
aliens. We come in peace. We're looking for one of our own who was stranded here as a baby. And then Superman would have come forth and been like, hey, I think that's me. They would have been like, it definitely is. Come with us. And then they could do whatever the fuck they want on their ship.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if they were going to genocide the whole Earth anyway, that guy's taken care of. They've got what they came for, whatever. Instead, he comes in and he's like, I'm the villain.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to know that now.
Right,
Well,
it was like
it's crazy because Zod, as far as what he says when he's describing his motivations in a very inelegant way, to go back to a word used earlier, the dialogue in this was much less elegant than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He like
I don't think that's
appears
saying
to,
much,
like,
but you do.
They seem to have wanted him to be the type of villain that believes they're the good guy. But then he all the time says all this evil shit. And it's just like, he can't think he's the good guy. He can't.
Yeah, right?
It's not possible. Like,
He's like, if your whole
when he
premise
puts Superman in the fucking hologram, the holodeck thing, and he's like, listen,
and
bro.
drowns him in a tide of corpses.
Hey, listen, you should join
Like-
us, dude. This is the cool kind of stuff we're gonna do. And then drowns him in a wave of skulls. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Like-
how is that convincing to anybody?
They really wanted to illustrate like these things were made to these things. These people were made to be soldiers, and there's no way to go against that programming. And it's like, but Jor-El did. It was the first thing
Well,
we
Jor-El
saw.
was made to be a scientist.
Jor-El was made to be a scientist. Sure. The leaders were made to be leaders, and they didn't do that.
True.
And
Oh.
Jor-El was made to be a scientist, advancing Kryptonian technology and society. And instead, he made a child
Yeah, it's
sent it into space in direct opposition
with
to
the
orders from a
genetic.
perceived superior.
Kryptonians had free will.
Well, with the like genetic
They did very clearly.
predisposition
So
thing,
being like
the
Zod
film
is like this because of the eugenics. It's like, no, Zod could have chosen at any point not to be like this, so it falls flat.
Yeah.
The reason that Clark refuses to let new Kryptonians be born is because he thinks they'll all be Zod, but Zod is like that because he's Zod, and the movie refuses to accept it.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. The film with the like Kryptonian like genetic predetermination stuff really wants to have its cake and eat it too, right? Because you're exactly correct. There is absolutely nothing in the film that would lead us to believe that Kryptonians do not have free will, but there's parts of the film where that needs to be true for it to make sense.
Yeah.
That needs to be true for Superman genociding the Kryptonian race to make sense. It needs to be true for certain of Zod's stupid decisions to make sense. But like, it doesn't make sense, you know?
No, it doesn't.
There is a point that I'm going to be generous here and say that they tried and failed to make with the whole genetic predisposition thing, and that's the leaders being really fucking bad at their job thing, where yeah, they're genetically predisposed to be leaders. It doesn't mean they're any good at it. There was a point they were trying to make there, I think, and it just didn't. I had to do a bunch of fucking mental backflips to even come to this conclusion. It did not work.
Yeah, it's not great. It's also very clear watching this movie after having, you know, now that we live in the future and the DCEU is a thing, that this so clearly was meant to be a standalone film. Like, it was not meant to be setting up any kind of cinematic universe at all.
Yeah.
Not even a little. It had some cameos from other things like LexCorp, which for some reason Lex Luthor wasn't in this film, and that doesn't make any sense at all.
It's also, Zod is a weird
start
first
a
enemy
Superman
for
Yeah,
Superman.
to start a Superman film series, to start any sort of Superman chronology, with Zod instead of Lex fucking Luthor.
Yeah, and I don't know that Lex Luthor needs to be, especially if we're doing an origin story, I don't think it makes sense for Lex to be the main villain, but it's weird that they don't introduce him because he is a very important character to the Superman continuity,
Very much
right?
so.
And again,
he's
obviously,
the human who is doing everything in his power to be worse compared to the not human who is doing everything in his power to be a paragon for man.
yeah, not
It's the whole purpose, you know, of like Superman stories.
sure, and not that that's necessarily a critique of the film, right? Because you could have a really good Superman film that doesn't mention Lex Luthor at all, but it's just, given that it wasn't a very good film, it's just like you think about these decisions that they made, and it's like, why? Like, So, anyone else got any salient points to make, or should we get this over
It
with?
fucking sucks.
I've got a lot to complain about on this movie, but I feel like it's just gonna, you know.
There were 10 films in this bracket
There's so much.
alone
There is
that
so
were
much more.
considered worse than this.
Yep.
There is
Here's
I'm
the
so
thing.
much more I
scared.
hate about this movie. However, going through all that is going to take way more time than this movie deserves.
Here's the thing. I'll say, if anyone listens or watches this, I don't know how this will get out if it does, and you have friends, or if you yourself consider this like a good movie or not that bad of a movie, just give it a rewatch.
Fuck yourself.
Give it a little bit of a rewatch.
A little aggressive.
You know, turn
No.
that kind
Um,
of critical part of your brain on. Just think about the events of the film and the characters, and see if you still agree with that sentiment at the end of 2 hours and 16 minutes. Ben,
Mhm.
And if you do, don't
turn in
tweet
that
at me.
vote, man. Who's moving on to round
You
2?
having me vote first?
Yeah.
I can't even make a joke vote for Man of Steel.
Who's moving on? Hey, no joke votes. Who's moving on to round 2 in your eyes?
It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's gonna beat the next one too,
Chris?
which is weird because Batman's in it.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by any measure.
By a
at all.
Kansas mile.
Oh, I hate it, but yeah,
Ugh.
by a Kansas mile.
Evie.
Oh, it's turtles, baby.
All right, and with
It's
my
Turtles
final
all the way down.
very important vote.
Turtles all the
Here's
way
the thing,
down.
guys. Man of Steel had its chance. I vote for Teenage Mutant Ninja
Oh my
Turtles.
God.
God.
Oh,
All right, I think this was
So
a.
we need to force Jeff to watch this fucking movie again, huh?
I guess so, man. Yeah,
What was he thinking?
I think he probably hasn't seen the film since it came out.
Or he was being.
I
sarcastic.
genuinely enjoyed Fortastic more than I enjoyed this.
Well, guys, I think this was a really, really good, productive, movie night.
Guys, there is so much more I want
Yeah,
to fucking
man.
say.
Once again, it is outro time. Welcome. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to know when the next one comes out, which should be relatively soon. If you've watched this whole thing and haven't checked out the first video, I definitely recommend doing so, as that one does explain the whole concept a bit more in depth. If you've got some thoughts about these movies or the things we said about them, let me know in the comments. I would love to have some furthering discussions about these topics. And finally, it is time for this video's fun fact. There are only 5 animated films in the whole tournament, and their average seed is 11.